A lot of sellers don't want to have even the thought of having to foreclose and take the property back.
Yeah.
So with the Deferred Sales Trust, it gives them freedom to not have to do that.
So 1031 we talked about sort of being trapped. What if someone's brand new to real estate? I'm just trying to think, is there anything in your world that applies to them? Because we do have that type of listener too, right? Hey, I'm brand new. I'm trying to leave my W-2. I make 6-7 figures a year. I want to get into real estate. Should they just keep you in mind for later, or where does that come in?
Good question. Like, who does this really work for, and who qualifies it? You need to have at least $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain per transaction, unless you have two at $500,000 each. And you say, well, why is that, Brett? Well, the pain, in other words, the tax liability needs to be big enough to hire us. What are your fees? Our fees are about 1.5% to close it one time, and about 1.5%. Yeah, and then about 1.5% to 2% recurring. So so you got to do the math, and so that's why we like to see like at $1 million gain, at about $300,000 to $400,000 of tax. Okay, I could see that paying that and that, right? So that's what we have. So, but you have a 2 at 500. So that's the first thing. So you're right. So a new person in this perspective, you might be trying to buy a deal from a seller on terms. This is what you guys practice, right?
Yeah.
And so that seller may or may not want to carry back paper for your newer investor. And it might be, let's do a bigger deal this time. Let's say it's a $10 million multifamily property. And you say, look, I know as a buyer, you want to be able to get it, it's hard to get financing for that. So you can try that route. But what if you brought in Chris as your GP partner? What if you bought that deal, but instead of the seller having to finance you guys, they can finance the trust and they can be free with their money. In other words, a lot of sellers don't want to have even the thought of having to foreclose and take the property back. Yeah. So with the Deferred Sales Trust, it gives them freedom to not have to do that, which means the buyer can make the deal. So essentially what we're trying to do is solve problems. And sometimes you can do your first offer, second offer, third offer. But if you can offer that fourth offer could be us. So that's what I would say. It's for that new person who's trying to get that big deal, but all their stuff is just not quite working for that seller. We'll come with something that's a little more creative and a little more unique that speaks to their unique thing that they're trying to check. Here's also what I would say. Everyone's going from A to B, Chris, right? A is where they're at, B is where they're trying to go. So make sure you're clarifying B is where your seller wants to go, the person you're trying to buy it from, right? And if you don't know that, then it doesn't even matter what
couldn't agree more. I love it.
Yeah. And so once you can figure that out, then you could say, well, does this line up with the Deferred Sales Trust? If so, present it.